Three, two, one. Welcome to the Lightforge podcast. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. For a slow week, we actually have quite a lot to talk about, thanks and partly due to something that happened just 2 hours ago. So, look,
Breaking news.
breaking news. We are recording this 7 p.m. on Sunday night, and we typically just talk about stuff that happens on like the Tuesday before because that's when Blizzard drops their patches and everything. But we actually have something to talk about and really chew on. Um, in a little bit. But let's first do a small recap, give congratulations, and just talk a little bit about one of the biggest Hearthstone events we have ever seen. And I'm talking about the Hearthstone Global Invitational, INN-Invitational. Haha. And if you are sitting there saying, Murphs, I have no idea what you're talking about, what do you mean? That's because Blizzard didn't promote this. Very surprisingly. But this was an Olympics style tournament that spanned 4 days, like 4 consecutive days. Uh, and it had four teams composed of the Americas, Asia Pacific, China, and Europe. And it involved constructed, battlegrounds, and mercenaries. And this was a huge event. It was, streamed all throughout China. It was also on Twitch. It had some of the best players. At this point, if you want to watch it, if you're listening to this and you're saying, "Wow, wait a second, I had no idea what this was. I want to watch all of this," then you want to actually stop the podcast right here. Or, if you're listening to this on like iTunes or Spotify or whatever, skip ahead like 10 minutes or so. um, because I'm gonna tell you guys right now, it was an awesome, awesome event. And at the end, congratulations to Team Americas. Well, Team Americas, not Team America. Sorry, PJ. PJ was not a part of this. I understand that if you're listening to this, last week we had Team America on, and now I'm congratulating the Americas team, who consisted of Nalgudan, Nayara, and Monsanto for constructed. For mercenaries, there was Frozen and Luna, and for battlegrounds, Dog, Collins, Slissa, and WTY Bill. Congrats to them for taking it home. Very dramatic, just a very well-run event in terms of entertainment value, production values. I'm sure it was very tiring for the players because there was a lot of Hearthstone to be played. But in the end, the Battlegrounds team went undefeated, prevailed, brought it home, and I think this just highlights how hungry everyone is for more of this content. Because you see within the community, for the people that actually did show up, because I'm going to tell you right now, I was in the chat, I stayed up late to watch this. There were so many people who, when they found it, they were like, "This is going on? Like, I had no idea." And it's kind of a shame. It's a little bit of a missed opportunity by Blizzard not to promote it more, especially with so many high-profile, uh, you know, talented but also famous streamer players in there. But yeah, I think this just goes to show how hungry people are for at least competitive battlegrounds, in which right now there is none. So there was definitely a constructed portion of it, but we have seen competitive, uh, professional constructed play for many, many years now through the GMs and just similar tournaments. The battlegrounds, though, that's what got everyone hyped, and it did help that they had a star-studded lineup that ran through the competition. Um, but I think it's also one of those formats which is fun to watch, and it creates all of these exciting moments. And so not just congrats to the team, but well done by the organization. Well done by the casters like Sottle, Lorinda. I thought they did an incredible job casting Battlegrounds, in which there's not that many opportunities to cast BGs, first of all. And I thought Sottle and Lorinda did a fantastic job of understanding the meta and communicating it. So I just want to see more. That's basically it. Like, I just want to see more, but I'm so happy for the Americas team for persevering through these 4 days. They get a good chunk of change for winning, but man, what an exciting event. And I think for people who listen to this podcast, who like the competitive aspects of this has to get your blood flowing. If you are a fan of Arena or just a fan of Hearthstone in general, like I was enthralled watching the constructed version because I knew what was at stake, how many points were at stake. I watched Mercenaries, and I was watching, kind of trying to understand at least what Luna was doing with her comps. So let's get more of this. That's just it. Let's get more of this. Let's see more of this stuff. And some boomer out there might be telling you that next Global Invitational Arena will be in here. I'm not as optimistic as that, but I
don't
think
know.
that,
If China's organizing it, China's pretty big into Arena.
yeah, well, here's the issue. As of right now, because what really made BG's a tournament game is private lobbies.
Mm-hmm.
As of right now, there is no way to do kind of like
I see.
1v1
So yeah, so you're not
or
actually facing
drafting,
off
right?
against
Nope.
the yeah. Well,
Yep.
I mean, that's clearly never going to happen. So
I I do think that Arena has potential for competitive events. It's just right now, you've been a part of Arena events. I've been a part of Arena events, whether it's Twitch rivals, whether it's private events, etc. It's very awkward. There
well,
are
it's a
two
high
ways
score
to do it.
system.
Yeah, it's a high score system against the field in which people can snipe and have sniped you and me during events. We've both
Mm-hmm.
experienced people sniping. There's no way around that.
But there's a delay, and you don't know who you're sniping.
Right, so people just like snipe or they try to target players. So
Like,
it's
you're
you
streaming
versus-
on a delay, so all you know is the field is going to be played around this time, so it's equal opportunity sniper, right? Like, you can't
Yep.
sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to snipe down Collins because I want him to get a lower score. You're just sniping whoever you get queued to with a strong deck. And you can't see their hand or deck. And you probably don't know who you're facing because you're on, like, the 5-minute or 15-minute delay or whatever. So I don't think that sniping is a huge problem in arena tournaments because it's equal opportunity sniping, and you still have chances to beat the snipers at least somewhat because they at least
Yeah.
they don't know who you are and they don't see your hand.
But part of the issue is you might face someone who is super Papega, who
Yeah.
might not know what they're doing, or you might face an actual competitor, right? Like an actual participant in the event, in which case they're at least pretty freaking good at Hearthstone, right?
Yeah.
So
That's just part of the game. That's just part of the RNG.
It is. It
Like,
is part of the RNG, although it's pretty big RNG.
But it's in the arena. That's the whole point of being in the arena, right? Like, you are not in there being match made against opponents
Right.
of roughly your skill, and that's kind of the point.
I'm saying that it's one of those things in which I think that some people are like, oh yeah, that's fine, and others are just like, it's kind of like, we're dealing with an imperfect system here, and that's one of the issues with Arena. It's like, as of right now, there's no clear-cut, clean way.
See, I don't see that as like an imperfection in the system. That is the entire system. Like I said, there's no matchmaking. The whole strength of Arena is that it's an elegant system. You can't, like, if you made an Arena matchup where it was only good players playing against good players, that would be warping the game. Because there is no version of Arena that exists like that. And so people who are good at Arena aren't necessarily good against playing against other really good players. That's not even part of the game. Like, that would be the weird thing to do to Arena, to create like a hybrid competition, right? Which you can do, right? You can set your own rules in any competition you make. But the normal way to do an Arena one is to just compare high scores, which, I get doesn't fit the whole other things like PvP and Mercenaries, like Battlegrounds, like Constructed, where you are being matched against other really good players, and that is the point of that competition.
Right.
But that doesn't change the Arena competition style. Like, that is what Arena is.
Right, except that that's also not exactly what it is as well, because it just ends up being a lot of players really good, like, because you'll have like 60 good players queuing up
at the same time. Yes, like, if anything, the fact that you are facing up against other people in the competition is the negative, not the positive, even though that's what people want to see.
All, like, goes to my point that whatever happens, because you can say like, oh, they should all be facing each other, or it should all be very clean. It just like, as of right now, any arena tournament, if they do it in this way, because the other way is to just transfer it to constructed, but then you can't like draft 3 of a card and whatever, and there's also like, that's all obviously not clean in any way as well, right? um but yeah, in this way, it's just it always is this weird sort of like, oh, okay, I guess we'll do it in this way. It doesn't exactly capture what arena is, but sure, this is fine.
Yeah, but like
The
in
other modes
Battlegrounds, it
just
doesn't capture it
transfer it
either,
more cleanly.
right? Like it's not like
I don't
Battlegrounds
know
captures
how.
what Battlegrounds is because you have teams.
No,
And
no, no, no. There were no teams here.
okay, but I mean, like in normal Battlegrounds in most Battlegrounds tournaments that I've watched, it's you have systems that are not exactly the same as Battlegrounds.
Well, no, most of them actually do. It's the weird team ones
Oh,
that
I see. Those are the
are.
ones I watch,
Well,
which happen to
there's
be the
also
weird ones.
just singular tournaments, right? You enter, you just try to get the highest score you can, and then you move on, right? Non-team ones are very easy, right? You just try to get the highest score. And even team-based ones here, the way that the Global Invitational worked was they are separated.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have any skins. You're in streamer mode, so you can't see who you're up against. So it is a 4v4, but
Yeah,
because you don't know who is on the other side, you just
I
have to try
see.
to do your best and kill. And
Okay.
then the scores just end up being what they are. So you really are, because if no one knows who each other is, and you're just purely incentivized to get the best score that you can, it's basically the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, yeah. But yes, I do agree. If they do a team one in which you can talk to your teammate, you know who they are, you can set up like good reform steals, you can set up
Like
like
the ones that
returns.
Blizzard has set
That's
up before
very
are all teams.
yeah, yeah. Blizzard likes to set up the team ones. But once again, there is a way to. Uh, Blizzard has created a way for BG tournaments to easily replicate the pure BG playstyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to change it, you can. So at least BG's has that. Arena doesn't have that right now.
Right.
Anyways,
So yeah. So let's talk about the big news that just dropped a couple hours ago, which is Ixar made a tweet that was in big capital letters: "Arena players, pay attention to this." And when a dev, when a Hearthstone dev says "Arena players, pay attention to this," you're like, "Oh crap, this has happened
there's dozens of us.
like twice before in the history of all 8 years of Hearthstone, maybe." And so all the entire Arena community had paid attention, and Ixar dropped a proposal, not a final thing, but like a proposal for what the current pitch is for an arena rating system. You wanna go over his tweet?
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
little complicated, so stay with us here.
Yeah. Stay with us here. All right. So once again, Ixar said that this is not like a final kind of system that's going to be put into place. This is just his thoughts. He's sharing an idea. So here's his pitch. He's saying that there are going to be 3 numbers here. There's going to be a rating, which is the number that is displayed. Okay, so the displayed number. And then there is your average wins per run, and there's also your class score. So your rating is going to be your average wins
Your rating.
times
Okay,
your
before we
class
get
score.
there, like just keep the 3 numbers. The only one that is your rating is your rating. Like Battlegrounds
Yes.
has a rating. Constructed doesn't have a rating. It has like a position,
It's got a
but
rank.
yeah, it's got a rank. But Battlegrounds has a rating. Mercs has a rating. It's that thing. It's called a rating. Like that's the
Yeah.
one that you see. That's the one that
It's your
anyone
score.
would really care about, regardless of your like. In the other systems, you have internal MMR, but anyway, but that's the rating, and the other 2 are the ones that are used to make up the rating.
Yep. So he says your average wins are your average wins. I think we can understand that, right? Let's say you do 30 runs and then you average, 7. Your average wins is 7. No matter how much you do, how many runs you do, whether it's, assuming there's a minimum, whether you do
Mm-hmm.
30 or you do 1,000.
Right.
If your average is 7, it is 7. So that's one of the numbers. The second number, the class score, that is your highest win total on each class added together. So, let's say you.
So it'll be 120 points max. because
Yes,
you can
it'll
get
be
12 wins with every class.
Yep. It'll be 120 points max. Now, there's a caveat to this that he explains later, but we're going to leave that there for now because I want to explain it in the way that he explains it. Um, Ixar says, one of the reasons I like the system is it encourages class diversity, has mostly forward progression, but the best players will still ultimately have the best rating so long as they choose a diverse subset of classes. We'd probably give you 10 points per win, so ratings are in the thousands rather than the hundreds. He said this way they can look more similar to BG/Merc numbers. Also, this is where there's a caveat. So Ixar has identified that one of the problems with this initial class score is that, let's say Priest kind of sucks. You luck out, you pick Priest once, you get 12 wins. You lucked out, right? Like, yeah, you played well. I'm sure you're the best ever. But you lucked out, you got 12. So you shouldn't touch it again, right? So you actually shouldn't. So here on the next tweet, Ixar says, I'd also consider giving, quote, bonus points for 12 win runs, meaning your score for an individual class could go higher than 12. This way, there is still minor incentive to play classes you've gone 12 with. He doesn't give specifics here, and obviously, I understand. Like, we don't need specifics yet, but he has identified it's like, okay, there is right now an incentive for someone to try to high roll, and once they do, to actually not play that class ever again. So there should be some incentive there. Let's just assume that whatever system it is, because Ixar has identified it, it does reward you, like more so than it punishes you for playing a class more if you think that you could do well on the class.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about the big thing in here, which is less about all the math and how you get to the scores, and we'll dig into that afterwards. But the big thing about this announcement is not, well, first is that they're still thinking about Arena. We haven't been totally forgotten. I keep saying they're thinking about Arena just slowly, and Merps keeps being like, nah. But obviously they are, just working on a slow timeline. But
well,
the even
it's
bigger...
like, I mean, I'm sure they're thinking of it. It's like, they could be thinking of it, but are they thinking of it?
Yeah,
That's
they've allocated their resources. It's a giant corporation. They've pre-allocated the resources months, quarters ago, and they're it's low priority, but it's getting there, right? This is how companies work.
Also, before you go on, I just want to finish up with his thing.
Okay.
He's saying that, like, taking these two things into consideration, your kind of rating, which is your class score times your average wins, there will be a live leaderboard to reflect this score.
No, that's exactly what I was saying.
Oh, okay. And the reset time is I'm just reading the tweets, man. I just want to read through these tweets, Let me read through the tweets. And then the reset time will probably be 2 or 4 months. And that's basically it. And then afterwards, he asked for feedback. So, first of all, before we give any sort of analysis, if you're listening to this and you're like, wait, I have a lot of thoughts on this, go tweet at Ixar. He tweeted this out for a reason.
Yep.
Go respond to him. I responded already. First of all, just to thank him for sharing, because he didn't have to, right? He didn't have to share. And I think that just the fact that he's putting it out there, trying to elicit feedback, is good. And if you have valid concerns, criticisms, or just sort of feedback and additions,
or just positive feedback,
or exactly.
Thank you.
Yep.
All good stuff.
Go tweet at him. Go share your thoughts. And in terms of like the positives, I mean, like, I thanked him there as well. Like, remember, he doesn't have to share this. So the fact that he is sharing this and is sort of like brainstorming with us, I think that even if you don't necessarily agree with this entire thing, which I will address, it is very nice that he is sharing it with us.
Okay. The main point that I want to highlight here before we get into the details and the math and the whatever, which is probably more what XR was looking for in terms of feedback, but oh my god, we're going to get an actual rating system in the arena. It doesn't matter what it is at this point right now, right? Like, it's going to be something. You may like it, you may not like it, but there will actually be a rating that will be called your arena rating at some point in the nearish future, and it will be live updated on a leaderboard. The same way with Battlegrounds, the same way with PvP Mercenaries. Arena is going to be on that leaderboard website because there's a website. I don't know if you guys check it or not, but the ranks the top 200 players for like Battlegrounds, for PvP Mercenaries, and it's live updated. And that is a pretty big deal for players who care a lot about their ratings. But even for players who don't care that much about their ratings, just having a rating in Arena, in the client, that in itself will legitimize the progression within the game. So they have an achievement system which semi-legitimizes it, right? It gives you some carrots, some incentives, and just like something to check off to get your 12 wins and whatever. But having an actual rating system, you can see that score go up. And that's one of the reasons why Ixar has put so much, and I'm sure not just him, but the Team 5 has put so much emphasis on progression into this ratings. They could have, and they normally would. Like your starting basis for creating a ratings for anything is like MMR, right? It's pretty basic. You just take the MMR system and then you say, oh, the good players win more against other good players or whatever, and then they lose more against whatever, right? And then your MMR goes up and down. But Blizzard never does that. And in fact, I think most games don't actually give you the MMR, but they give you something very similar to it. Like your Battlegrounds ratings is not your MMR. You have a different internal MMR. The Battlegrounds ratings is set up to give you a sense of progression so you can climb, right? But also to reflect, like, after a while, to really get more and more closer to your actual MMR, so it actually is an indication of skill, too. You're still being match-made against your internal MMR. In Arena, I'm assuming this, but I think based on some of his comments in the later tweets, this rating will be visual only, and it will not actually affect the underlying matchmaking of Arena, which later on he says, if we just took the MMR system and like made it happen in Arena, you will have weird results, like you go 1-3 and your rating actually goes up because you were facing like really good players or whatever. So to get rid of all that, the Arena rating is actually going to look very different than your Battlegrounds rating or your PvP Mercenaries ratings, because it is not like just a reflection of your MMR plus how much you've played. They're building in more progression than just I played a lot of Arena. They're building in class diversity. You don't get more rating points for using different mercenaries in Mercenaries PvP. You don't get more Battlegrounds points for picking different heroes. And Battlegrounds gives you the same, like you get what now, like 4 options and you get to select one. You don't get extra points for like selecting the bad heroes. But here in Arena, the proposal is that you would get that because they really want to build this progression in, which I think is interesting. But that's how important progression is generally to the whole design process. And the fact that you will have a rating, all players will have a rating, casual players, hardcore players, and it will be in the client. And for hardcore players, there will be a leaderboard. Like that itself is huge. Not looking at how the rating is actually calculated. That in itself is a driver of both progression for regular players and also of just some kind of measure of skill, however perfect or imperfect it is for top players. And it'll warp the game, at the top at least, because people will do whatever it is you're incentivizing them.
Yeah. Look, so one of the things I tweeted out at Ixar, I figure I'd talk about. Look, I have many thoughts on this, and I decided let's just share one thought for now. Um, and I once again, look, I think it's easy to tear something down. It's very easy to tear something down. It's much harder to kind of add something that you think, oh, your idea, in addition with this, will make it work. As of right now, I can only provide a criticism, but I think it's an important one. But I wanted to mention this just because, like, I don't want people to think it's like, oh, you're just looking to hate on this idea. I want to constantly emphasize that Arena getting some kind of bump, getting some love, getting a score system would be so clutch for Arena. It's so necessary. Arena right now is fundamentally the same format that it was when the game was in beta. It just is. So for it to get something that players can hang their hats on, um, if you remember, we had a couple podcasts with Sun Glitters, and each time we'd ask her about this, and she says seriously, because she is such a competitor, Arena just didn't have enough of that, for her, because she is hungry to compete. She wants to stomp people, and you can have that in BGs. First of all, you're facing like good players, but second of all, there's a number, right? You can get the number higher, so that would help there. One of the issues that I tweeted out to Ixar is that looking at this current system, unless I am understanding it incorrectly, the the objective for any live leaderboard is that there should be a singular goal and objective for players such that they should always be trying to reach higher, getting as many points as possible at any given moment. One of the problems, if you were to keep the current arena structure or format with the adjustments that they make to classes, in which the worst class is sub 40% sometimes, the best class is over 55% easily in some metas. So you have this like 15% swing, give or take, in some metas. What happens is the live leaderboard is kind of useless because the person who jumps out immediately to a lead, what does that mean? It means that they played all the classes, and it means that that was a mistake, because it always is a mistake if you're playing all the classes immediately. What you should do is, let's say Priest is 37% win rate. Let's just say, like you're in a meta in which Priest is 37% win rate. You want to be able to pass the marshmallow test. You need to be able to bite the bullet. You have a fat 0 for your Priest class score until 1 month later, Priest gets adjusted, if not to a mid-tier class, maybe to number 1. They're now at 56% on HS Replay. They have all the class cards. They have all the Alex. They have, let's say, Psychic Scream is in the meta now. They also just get more, let's say Scorpid is in the meta. They also just get more Scorpids than everyone. Maybe. So this is one of the issues I see with this current iteration. And once again, this is just something that Ixar threw out there, but I want to make sure we respond properly. A live leaderboard, if you are wanting to have a live leaderboard, shouldn't have this sort of tension here, where you want players to get higher scores, but if players look carefully and they want the highest scores eventually, by the end of the leaderboard, they should actually pass the marshmallow test and then only play and only grind during specific times. And also, I was talking in Discord with some members of the Arena community as well. It also means that you kind of can't take any time off, because whenever you take time off, let's say for this few week period, if you were to take time off, that was your period to make Shaman, which was, let's say, previously bad and now very good. That's your time to grind Shaman and to increase that score. And let's just say, based on Ixar identifying the issue with sitting on a class, it actually is beneficial for you during the time in which Shaman is good to get multiple 12-win runs and bring down your average from like a 12 for your first run to only like a 9.6, during that time, for like a small period of runs, but still, like you played it more than just once. And if you didn't play at that time, the opportunity is gone. Like your Shaman score, statistically and just probability wise, will never be as good as someone who played during that time. These are just some issues I saw with it. I try to communicate it, but it's one of the problems in which having a live leaderboard has, versus this like adjustment problem that the arena has had, that becomes even more amplified when you have this live leaderboard. And I just don't see a way to kind of reconcile that.
Yeah, let's start in the top. We're just talking about the leaderboard. So all we care about right now is hardcore arena players. When it comes to not hardcore arena players, it doesn't matter what you do. You just have to have a rating. There has to be a progression element to it so that their rating goes up, at least for the first few bit, and then eventually it has to level out into some test of whatever you consider skill. The rest of it, it's not that big of a deal. When you have the leaderboard, that's a live updating leaderboard. So first of all, so I just want to set that the only considerations we're talking about are at the top right now. When it comes to the middle and the bottom, as long as you don't get rid of the initial progression system and the fact that it levels out at some point, you're good. Battlegrounds does it. Mercenaries PvP does it. It's very not hard to do, and you can do endless varieties of it, and it'll all come out pretty okay, right? Like, the one pitfall that I could see is if you make it super complicated and then people just get turned off trying to like even look at what the rating is. But unless you go there, everything's going to be more or less fine. At the very top, nothing's going to be fine. I'm going to say this like flat out. It does not matter what Blizzard comes up with. The system will be gamed. Why is Blizzard coming up with this system of weird classes and whatever? It's because they have a current system right now where you just do the top, 30 runs in a 2-month period or whatever it happens to be. And the people who do it just game the system. They only play the top classes, they play 30 runs in like 1 week in the most unbalanced meta possible, and they try to high roll that class as much as possible because, metas are going to be unbalanced. And that's not something Blizzard can fix. Blizzard can make an unbalanced meta more balanced by classes, but there will always be a period where it's unbalanced because Blizzard doesn't do sufficient internal testing, if much internal testing at all, for the arena. So that's just like you're beta testing Blizzard's, you're like alpha testing Blizzard's arena balance for like the first few days or like week or whatever of any new meta, right? So anything you do will be gamed. It's currently being gamed. Blizzard saw a problem. Team 5 was like, okay, this will kind of fix how it's currently being gamed. Well, fine. People are going to game it another way. I don't really see Merps' thing of like, oh, you can't take any time off as a problem. Like, if you want to make the leaderboard, sure. Like, why should we reward people taking time off? Isn't that kind of against the whole point of the leaderboard? Is that it's for the top players who are playing this very intensely? I don't really see a problem with that, but it is just a way of gaming the system, right? But every way is a way of gaming the system. More than not being able to take a time off, you can't play the game anymore under the system XR proposes. That's my biggest problem with it, is that the whole system just can't exist like that, because what you'll incentivize is someone meeting whatever minimum threshold there is of number of games played, and then someone will get up to a hot streak, right, to start off, and then they'll just stop playing. Or they'll only play the like bad classes as it goes on, right, and get up. So like, if I'm averaging 10 wins per run, and I have for a number of games at a time, I'm not going to keep that up. The people who in the past have averaged 10 wins per run on a 30-run basis, they're not going to keep it up. There are certain metas in which you just can't get 10 wins per run. Many metas, in fact. So you find the right meta, you play enough games in that, and then until it resets, you're really not incentivized to play. And they already have a way of fixing the problem, which is just to kind of reset more frequently, but it doesn't really fix it, and there's no fix to this. The current fix to it is that you only take the top scores for a certain period, so that your top players can still play the game afterwards, at least. So if you're creating a new system where your average is going to be part of your ratings, the ratings then have to actually keep inflating quite significantly, so people have to keep playing, or your ratings have to degrade, like in Overwatch, for not playing, to force you to play X number of arena runs every single week, right? Like, that's a system, it's a pretty normal system. A lot of games use it. Like, you have Battlegrounds that uses an inflation system, or you have Overwatch that uses a like penalty system for being idle. You need something like that. On the class side, why are heroes not... Like, why are heroes in Battlegrounds not under the same system? There's nothing fundamentally different from this arena rating system and a Battlegrounds rating system. You're both offered a random selection of, a few heroes. You don't get full selection over which hero you pick. You get a minor amount of selection, and then you just kind of have to deal with it. They're both limited systems. Their rating systems should work the same way. And the reason that it's not used for Battlegrounds, maybe the reason is that at the time they were rolling out Battlegrounds, MMR system, was just too complicated and they didn't want to do that yet. And they're thinking of doing this for Battlegrounds too, maybe. But at the end of the day, whatever the system is, it should be aligned with Battlegrounds. I don't think Arena is so special in this whole like class diversity thing or this whole progression thing that it is in any way, shape, or form different than Battlegrounds. on those two areas. Obviously, Battlegrounds is 8 players and is a pure MMR kind of system, whereas Arena, your matchmaking is matching you up based on the number of wins you've had rather than your MMR. But that does not affect progression. That doesn't affect class battles. So if you're concerned about those two things and making your rating system, Blizzard, do whatever it is you do in Battlegrounds, and the entire Arena community will be as happy as the Battlegrounds community. And you should be really focused on making the Battlegrounds community happy, because that is probably always going to be a bigger thing than Arena. And at least right now, it is a way bigger thing. And so you should be worried about that in the first place. So my advice to Blizzard would be to stop trying to get creative on an Arena-specific way. Arena is very elegant. Limited game modes are very elegant. Their whole draw to people is their elegance. The more weird stuff you stuff into a rating system, the worse it'll be. For the top players, at least. So, whatever happens in the bottom with the progression and the middle and all of that, once you get near the top, once you start having any chance of sniffing the leaderboard, it should go the same way Battlegrounds goes, which is into an elegant system. And we're set, right? We've seen this tweet for like 2 hours. We're not solving the problem here of people just playing the top classes. That system should already be solved within the game itself, because you're only offered 3 of the 10 classes each time you queue. So what this is trying to solve now is that they think that that's not enough. And really, that's a game problem. That's not a ratings problem, right? Like, the only ratings problem that you need to solve is to incentivize people to keep, like at the top, is to incentivize top players to keep playing. And you already know how to do that. It's inflation or it's penalty. Very easy. Almost all MMR systems use it. All of your MMR systems use it. So just do that. Like that's just, at the end of the day, that's my advice to it. The fancier stuff never helps. It could hurt. It could not hurt. But to top players, it'll never help.
Yeah. I agree that complexity is an issue here. And that kind of also goes to the heart of the point I was making as well, in which any time in which people have to strategize in a very outside of the game way, I don't like that. It's part of the reason why I have been not a fan of these adjustments, right? Like, I won't call them micro adjustments, like they are adjustments, right? It's because in order to see when they hit, in order to understand how big of an impact it has had, I can never see it in the game. I have to be an HS replay hawk. And sometimes it's not enough for you to just see what classes are good and what classes are bad. You have to understand why. Oh, epic offering rates are lower, they're higher. Oh, these 3 specific legendaries are showing up more than other ones. That's happened, by the way.
And not like more as in like 50% more as in 10 times more.
Yep. It was what, Zephyrus and what else? I forget.
This has happened multiple times.
Yeah. Anyways. The more complicated you make this score, like, so let's say, Ixar has smartly identified the problem of people sitting on something, so we make a system that incentivizes, but now there's kind of like an equation for the more you play, we're not going to penalize you, we're actually going to reward you for playing as well as you do well, but then, you have to understand that this is the way your scoring is going to be placed. Like, oof.
Like, they're adding so much complicated math into this that they don't know the answers to. And the answers change meta to meta. And now you're pushing your top players to do this math and figure it out. Because that's what's going to be the difference between the very top players and the next rung of players. And people are either going to not do that, and then your ratings is going to be not reflective of who people generally think has performed best in the season. Or they're going to do that, in which case you're now kind of grading people on how well they identify whether one extra run as priest at 42% is worth it, or if it needs to be 45% win rate for it to be worth it. And the person who figures that out the best would have some kind of advantage, especially when you multiply it over 10 classes. And I don't know, like, this is just... if you do it, people will do it, right? Like, it's not that the top players care about this kind of stuff. Someone will go and, like, math it all out and do a pretty good job at it, and they'll get number one, or they'll just get much higher than they would normally get otherwise. And no matter what system you make, they're going to do that. So just make that part very simple so that everybody has access to it. Like, the problem is that you don't want that to be secret information. You want that to be the most public, basic, intuitive, if possible, information. If not intuitive, at least simple to explain. And just reading through Ixar's tweets of this class system, it is not a simple system. The considerations are actually to make it even more complicated rather than less complicated. That, other alternatives that Ixar proposed further down the chain. And I feel like it's over-engineering a problem that doesn't exist. Arena is Battlegrounds on the rating system. Just make it Battlegrounds on the rating system.
Yeah.
Using wins rather than, MMR.
If you just think about it as well, if we're going to do a live leaderboard, but all we're doing is doing a live leaderboard instead of publishing a leaderboard at the end of whatever period that they so choose, is that better or worse than this idea that Ixar is floating right now? We just prefer that, a live leaderboard reflecting, like, let's say best 30 runs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so at the beginning of the season, they could just be like, for the first week it's best, I don't know, 15 runs or so, and by the end of 2 weeks, because you're going to have those grinders, it'll be like best 30 runs, and they just keep it at best 30 runs, and then that's sort of it. It's just like a live tally of the best 30 runs from all of these players, and it's simple, it's clean, and I'm just like, you know what? That's fine. And in a way, I prefer that because of its simplicity, and because neither of these problems solves the play the best classes when they are good issue, which is a problem that, I mean, you can think about a lot of solutions, but it's just an inherent problem because of the way that the arena is set up right now.
Yeah.
So,
like, why is Battleground not doing this?
Yeah.
Because no one in Battlegrounds thinks it's a problem. I don't know, maybe inside Blizzard they're like working furiously to try to solve this Battlegrounds ratings problem, and they're trying to test it out on Arena right now. But I don't think the community, at least in Battlegrounds, thinks this is a problem. That people are, that people on the top of the leaderboards generally only use the top classes, and or they're like out there trying to figure out something to do with the other ones. Now, why would that be a problem in Arena?
There's just going to be good classes. People will play the good ones, and I would say in BGs the discrepancy is, just about as big, if not bigger, sometimes due to how the meta is, shaking out. So yeah, I don't think that this problem of class diversity that a lot of people have pointed out, is necessarily solvable, and it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Like, if you think it's a problem, that's fine, but all of these other game modes and all so many different games period have it. Like, there's going to be good, there's going to be bad. So yeah, the situation I propose, like, that's sort of what I always try to think about. Is this solution better than just a live leaderboard of the leaderboard that we have right now? And I don't think so, because I like the simplicity there.
Yeah, I mean, I would convert it into a rating system to match the rest of
Sure,
Hearthstone, and
sure.
put some progression into it, and like,
Sure, that's fine. But yeah, not the like. I think it's definitely a more elegant solution, and one that takes less you in an Excel sheet, or you kind of strategizing, thinking of all of this stuff, um, and trying to figure out, okay, what is the best time to play a class? How much should I play it, right? Depending on this bonus. And at a certain point, I shouldn't play it / I should play it. I just don't love that. We can have disagreements there. I think that's absolutely fine. Other people might have different thoughts. I think it is just much cleaner to have kind of like I will play whatever is the best class right now, and then I will try to do the best of my abilities. Everyone will try to do that, and we're taking out this sort of like, well, who calculated best the breaking point, right? So yeah, those are my initial thoughts. I'm going to emphasize this again. we should be thankful to Ixar for sharing this. This is a very preliminary idea, right? Like let please do not like go to Ixar's Twitter and just be like, I don't like this idea. I can't believe this is like being considered blah 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 blah. We should encourage sharing of thoughts like this. And it's one of those things where it is hard because we have identified that the class issue, if you want to call it that, um, is almost impossible to solve. Right now, Arena needs something more than what it currently has to not just keep it afloat, because it's not really floating. It is halfway down already. We need something to revitalize it, and these ideas help. And whatever we can do to kind of push Ixar along, I think would be good. So,
I just don't think that the ideas matter as much. Even if this exact idea went live, like it would just be good for people to have a rating. That's all.
mhm.
Like the rest, you can figure out whatever. And I get it. You got to figure it all out before you implement an idea. But it would be better to implement a basic idea than it is to take longer to implement a more complicated idea. The whole point of a limited format, especially your very first limited format, is to keep it elegant, which should be the simplest thing and the thing that requires the least amount of effort to do from Blizzard's perspective. And they just keep not doing that amount. And they've tried things that are like honestly way more complex. Like the bucket system that launched, and we were like, holy crap, is Blizzard gonna try to do this? And they tried to do it. And they failed, but like they tried and they didn't have to do any of that, right? Like eventually they were just like, all right, you know what? Keeping it simple is actually the best. And I hope they learn something from that, which is not that you cannot exactly find a better solution than what is elegant. Maybe you can, but you won't know that you found it until you do it, and you're gonna miss so much before you hit on it. And Arena doesn't need that. Right? Like, what was the problem with duels? One of the problems was that you over-engineered the game. And like, I know it's hard as a game developer to not over-engineer things because generally that's what they get paid. But for something like a limited game format, less, more elegant is better 95% of the time. And the work that goes into trying to be the top 5% is appreciated. But right now, what Blizzard has done to the arena so far in the 8 years they've had this game mode is like bottom 2% of the industry. So trying to get an A+ here is not really worth their time. Like the arena community just wants like, I mean, I think we'll be happy with a C product. We probably want a B product. And if trying to deliver an A+ product gets in the way of giving us a C or B product, I'm against that. And not to mention it uses more of their time and efforts and money and whatever. Like,
I think that's fair. Like, I mean, if you ask arena players, okay, would you prefer some sort of revolutionary change, or would you like the ability to spectate drafts, more more
oh my god,
kind of
spectating
frequent
drafts.
the ability to spectate drafts, the like more frequent updates, a little better communication on what's happening, like sort of timely, let's say, pushing the button every 2 weeks at a specific time so that people know when the button is being pushed. I think everyone would prefer that.
Yep.
At least the majority of the arena community, which is, like at this point is a little bit kind of like devoted, insular to some extent, but very passionate about the game. Yeah, like this is sort of the C product that Adulta is talking about. Just some changes, some quality of life changes that, let's face it, it's not like, oh, it'd be nice. It's that these are overdue,
Yeah.
way long overdue for a game this old. It just makes too much sense. And for there to just be consistent updates, of which, if you look at other games around, the industry, or if you just look at some other Blizzard games, they do much more consistent updates. They tell people what they're updating, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think if you did a poll of the arena community, the vast majority would say, I don't need you to swing for the fences. I would take this grouping, like,
It's not even I
of
don't need you.
consistent
Like,
good
please
things.
don't swing for the fences
Yeah.
because you've missed every time, and it's understandable that you missed. you're trying to solve a really hard problem.
It's a very tough problem. I agree. Right. So, and it's one of those things where it's kind of like, in some ways it's admirable, but in other ways it's like this. It's like if you know that climbing Everest is going to be hard, let's just climb the highest point in your state, right? Like let's just go for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's a certain point where it's like, yeah, it's cool that you have these ambitions. For example, the bucket system, that was very ambitious, and if it worked, it would have been amazing.
Yes.
It would have
That
been
would have been my
absolutely amazing.
proposal, but I would have needed like an actual dedicated person on Arena to monitor all that, who's really good in Arena and knows all this stuff, and is like they
Yep.
were willing to dedicate that person to doing that, I assume.
Um, and also something like, for example, if we were to do something like synergy picks, it had to have been much more than what we had gotten. I'm not going to say exactly in what way because that's up to Blizzard, but they couldn't implement it the way
Mm-hmm.
that they implemented it. That's
Yep.
really the issue. So once again, um, I think that it's nice that we are talking about this stuff, but hopefully Ixar knows that it actually doesn't take like okay, if they're thinking they want to swing for the fences to make Arena or whatever limited format. Let's say we're thinking about Arena 2.0 now. It's not even Arena. It's like the next big limited format. In order to make that so much a success, I hope he does understand that like Arena wasn't that far off from if not being a much bigger game mode, from holding a lot more people's
Yeah.
attention. Certainly yours and mine,
They
right?
just had to give like a D
Yeah,
minus effort, and they gave like a F minus
yeah,
effort.
exactly. So a lot of these quality of life changes and a lot of these kind of more frequent updates, uh, more communication about what exactly has been changed, um, just sort of dampen your need to go on HS replay if you want to be one of the best players, or just be connected to this community in which you hear all the time. It's like, oh, epic offering rates are up, and oh, like we just got the button push. Here's sort of like how things are trending and shifting. So don't draft demon hunters anymore. Like mages are the new thing. Um, let's just kind of uh, try to make this not as necessary, and
I
I
mean,
think that
that's
arena players will be much happier.
yeah. I mean, that's not going to happen though. That requires actually balancing the game, right? Which is actually hard.
It is hard.
So
It is
they're
hard.
not going to like they've already committed down this path where you're just not going to know the information. So they could try to give you a lot of information, but it's going to come with so many holes, right? They'll just and they have been like they've been telling us when they're pushing the button. Um, they've been, I think the communication hasn't been that bad over the last like couple years.
It's been much better. It's been much better. Although I would say, as an arena, like I think the arena community would want more. I would say overall, the communication between the Hearthstone dev and Team Five versus the community has been much better. But I do think the arena communication still lags behind a little bit compared to the communication in other modes.
Yeah, like just compare the Bembro days with what's been happening afterward. It's night and day on the arena front at least. Um, for for the non-top arena players, which I feel like a lot of the purpose of putting more effort into the arena is not so much as to retain the arena players as it is to try to get other segments of either ex-Hearthstone players or just Hearthstone players playing other game modes to try out the arena again and make it more of Hearthstone the hub for random things that you can do with cards and whatever. And arena is a very accessible game mode to play for constructed players, in that you already know all the cards, or a good portion of the cards. And in getting that in, like I think there's this idea that they won't like constructive players who may want to play arena just can't play arena now for some reason. And there's like an effort to fix that. But really, if you just make arena shinier and then give a couple of quests that are like arena specific or like a quest line, like what's being done with duels right now, where like I mean, it didn't get me to play duels, But Blizzard also hasn't updated duels in 6 months, as far as I can tell. But you do something like that while putting shiny things in Arena, like this rating thing potentially. Potentially, recommit to actually balancing the game, which has been kind of dropped in the last month and a half. I think it's been very terrible. But it's stuff like that that'll get people back. You need two separate efforts to get people back, right? Or to get people to try Arena. One is the advertising front. You need to advertise to your current players, whatever, blah, 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 get them to try Arena. And the other one is to have a good product. Like, just have a good product. I don't think people need to, jump into the Arena and win 5 games on average to enjoy the game mode. They certainly don't do that in Constructed. Like, Constructed is trying to get you to 50-50. Right? Like, Arena is going to start you off below that because it just kind of has to. But you got to give them some tools so that they can up their win rate. And you try to give them those tools by making things accessible. Like, one of the problems is if a lot of the Arena players right now are people who know the stuff, they're using HS Replay or they've accumulated so much other stuff. You make that stuff matter less, like Merp says. That's how you improve the game. Now, I get that that's really hard, but none of this other stuff is going to make that much of a difference. You really want to improve your actual gameplay and your actual ease of access and your actual features in the game mode. That's how you get people. Like, work on the fundamentals. Arena is all about the fundamentals. So, I don't know. The bells and whistles here are not going to move the needle too much one way or the other, and it's just not necessarily I'm reminded of this a Kipling poem that I really like. It's called "The Gods of the Copybook Headings," and I don't know if people are familiar with it or not, but the general quote of it that they come back is that the gods of the copybook headings, I notice, will outlast them all. All these innovations happen, but in the end, humanity always crawls back to this safe, kind of conservative position. Not because it's wrong to progress, but because that's what we know. That's what has worked in the past. That's why people are playing Arena. That's why people play the limited format in Magic the Gathering, which is what you base the whole game off of. There's no reinventing the wheel. There's no, you could make the wheel a little bit better or whatever, but first you have to have a wheel. And like I said, the main problem that every single person who's played Arena and has quit because that there wasn't an upkept wheel. It was just a broken wheel that Blizzard's been giving sub 2% of the developers' ratings efforts into. And so give it a C, give it a B, and you'll be fine on the retention point, which then brings to getting new players in. And then you just gotta have a big advertising effort on that one. Offer some incentives. Hearthstone players love free gold, right? Don't give free. Well, you give some free gold that if you complete an arena run or whatever, right? 2 arena runs. Try out different classes. Maybe every single season you can. Those achievements that currently reward just achievement points. Make them reward packs. For playing the arena of a certain time, and maybe put a limit, right? Get 3 wins as rogue or whatever. Right, so that you get people to do that, so that they don't just queue in and immediately concede to get their free pack or whatever. But that's a different thing. I think there's I don't know. I think the focus is kind of on the wrong thing, at least in this, right? We don't know what all the thoughts and all the work they've been doing behind the scenes are, but in terms of this, I just don't think it's a big needle mover one way or the other, and I prefer it simpler. You have any more thoughts on this before we move on to we keep talking about fundamentals. Let's move on to the actual fundamental problem in Arena right now and why everybody's quitting.
Sure. I'm just going to emphasize once again that one thing that could really help is if you care about this issue at all, tweet at Ixar. If nothing else, whether you think it's a great idea, whether you think it's a terrible idea, but make sure you give constructive criticism. If you don't like it, don't bother the guy. Him seeing that there are people who care, that care about what happens, that care about what he says about this, that'll go a long way. And it's part of the reason why I responded. I wanted to at least, if my idea isn't kind of like digested, and if he disagrees with it, which is fine, at least he knows, hey, Merps doesn't play a lot of Arena anymore, but he still wrote like 3 Twitter responses to me, so at least he cares. If he gets a lot of people to, kind of say, hey, I love this, can we expand upon that? I don't like this, or can you explain this a little bit more? That is just, no matter what you say, it's fuel for Blizzard to further work on this, to further think about. It's like, okay, well, Arena is worth thinking about. And they might already have decided that it is worth thinking about, or whatever.
They have
I have no
decided
idea
that,
what goes on.
but it's always
Yeah,
good to
but
reinforce
good.
that, right? It's like if they're doing a
Yeah.
good job at something, always nice to hear that you're doing a good job.
And if you want a say, whenever they reach out like this, we should tell them what we think then, because
Mm-hmm.
they're asking for feedback. So give it. So I'm just going to emphasize once again, if you have any thoughts about it at all, go tweet at Ixar. If you're confused about something, go ask him a question. If you appreciate, just like I appreciate, the fact that he's sharing this, tell him that.
Mm-hmm.
But don't just sort of like it's like the voter thing. It's like, if you didn't vote, don't complain afterwards about like what happened, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and even if
Um,
your individual vote will never matter,
yep,
everybody should go and vote.
you should go and vote. And just like here, you should go if you have an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just go and be like, I like turtles. Don't
Or at
don't
least
don't do
like the
that. Okay.
opinions that other people have said that you agree with, right? And like his
Right,
post,
right,
like his tweet or whatever. So show the
right.
support.
Don't go troll him. Okay. But encourage you guys. We should, if as an arena community we want change, we should be pushing this. We should be kind of communicating ideas effectively while we have the opportunity.
Okay. Now let's talk about what's actually wrong with the arena, which is none of that stuff. We don't need that stuff in the arena. People are quitting arena in droves right now. They'll maybe come back when the new expansions come out, but Blizzard has announced that dual class arena will be here basically until the next expansion, and they know that there's a problem, but they at least haven't done anything about it yet, which is what I want to address. And I'm just not playing dual class arenas because I don't enjoy dual class arenas. It's impossible to like really get a good grasp out of. It's more broken than usual. For some reason, there are fewer class cards for like 7 out of the 10 classes, and then 3 of the 10 classes have like an insane amount of class cards. I'm looking at you, Shaman. It's kind of a mess. And it always is a mess, and they don't balance it, and like whatever, right? I'm just waiting for the event to end, and so when everybody was disappointed that it wasn't going to be a month-long event like it was the last couple years, and it was only 1 week, I'm like, good, I'll sit this week out. So it's a month-long event. It's going to be more than a month-long event, but none of that matters. I'm not actually too upset at the class thing being extended because I wouldn't play the arena anyway, even if it was single class arena, because of everyone's least favorite card of all time that has been put into the arena, Goliath. I've done the math. I've done my, less algorithmy version of with my Excel sheet and the formulas for the ratings of it. Goliath is just a tiny bit worse than Ysera. And they are by far like the best neutral legendaries that Hearthstone has ever made. Like you can't worry about things like Death Knights. Death Knights don't do anything close to what these guys do. And Engineer can discover Goliath. And
Right.
engineers are all over the place, and they kind of should be, in the sense that there's no real reason to not put engineers all over the place. They're kind of a normal card. This is just a weird card pool that should never exist where there's not enough mechs. And Goliath is so OP in the arena. So in the same way that you can discover dragons, and then Ysera becomes a problem, you can discover mechs now. Goliath becomes a problem. That's how the game is built. So they obviously have to do something about this. Arena is so terrible right now. I have played a number of arena runs since this whole thing began because I wanted to play with some cards from the new set. And especially once they announced that the dual class thing was going to go on for a while, I'm like, all right, well, I'll play some then, right? Like, check out the Dead Minds cards and whatnot. And every single run has been horrible. Like, a horrible, horrible experience. One, because I'm not getting Goliaths. I've got an MO's one engineer, and people usually have a lot more than one engineer. But also, and there's still the dual class thing doing other stuff to it. But it's just nothing seems to matter. This is like, I think, widely agreed to be one of the worst metas of all times, if not the worst meta of all time. And they need to change it. And the easy way to fix the problem is obviously just to reduce the engineer offering rate down to almost 0, and that will fix a bunch of the problem while hitting the button at the same time, so that you balance the classes a bit. And it's a dual class event, no one expects super good balance. So they can fix it pretty easily, I think. My question for you, Merps, is what do they do going forward? We asked this to PJ last week, but I want to delve into it a bit more, which is, and Ysera's kind of a problem with this too whenever Dragon Generation starts to come in. Like, would you change the Discover mechanic for the arena? Or would you just ban these cards that are Discover, mechs and Discover Dragons? Or, like, what's the solution here?
Look, the way I look at it is there's a cost-benefit analysis to this, right? Because if you just say, the problematic thing is Discover, and we need to, whether it's getting rid of all legendaries from Discovers, whether it is kind of like taking a huge chunk out of Discover or whatever, I view that as kind of like chemotherapy for Arena, as in, if you guys don't know anything about chemotherapy, you're killing a lot of the good along with the bad. So I don't love that. Maybe it's completely unrealistic for me to ask for this, but I can tell you, and I talked to Dreads about this multiple times as well, because both of us are, I think, a little bit puzzled by it. For me personally, when I saw the announcement that Blackwing was going to be banned before it ever hit Arena, I thought that we were setting a precedent here. I thought that was Blizzard saying, hey, we're going to take a 30-minute look and just think about what would be problematic for the arena. And even at that time, was Blackwing really good and premium? Yes. Was it like the best card ever printed even then? No, it was not. It was, just a very, very good card.
It's tied for like the best cards ever printed. And it was a common neutral.
It was a common neutral, but like it wasn't, in terms of its power level, it's not like it was just above and beyond anything we had seen and anything we've seen since, especially not anything we've seen since, right? We've seen a lot of really freaking powerful cards that win the game much earlier on as well, right?
I mean, but if you guys are wondering, Blackwing's about the same power level as Goliath and Sarah. So it's in that S tier.
Right. So, look, it was really, really good, but if you look at stuff like ramming mount, right? And if you say, well, Merps, okay, well, that was a neutral. All right, watch post. If you look at something like watch post, and how watch post, I think most people, if not all people, will agree, is much more frustrating than Blackwing.
But keep in mind, all right, so many top arena players looked at watch post before it was released and did not give it the max score.
I thought it was just one.
Quite a bit more than one did not give watch post the top rating that they had available into their like rating system.
Maybe, but I think all of them except for like one said it was very problematic.
Yes, it's very but a lot of things are very problematic and won't get banned. Is kind of my point, right? Like, is Viper very problematic? Yes, it's not going to get banned, I don't think.
So, wait, Viper? You mean Scorpid?
Scorpid.
Okay. Not Rust-Rot Viper. I was like, yes, Viper, you are correct. It is not problematic at all. That's not. Yes, it's like, oh man, you really want Yeti Stone, huh? Okay. So look, when the Blackwing ban happened, I thought, okay, like even if they don't get everything, like we should have a net, right? We should have a net, and at the very least, like, oh, we have someone looking at this stuff now. Maybe to catch it and like, if not, preemptively do it really, really fast. So like, just a few days, a few hours after watch post drops, if you play in the arena, I think you'd immediately, as soon as you get hit by that first watch post, you're like, okay, I completely understand now. If I didn't understand before, I understand now. You
Hmm.
get hit by that first watch post, or you drop that watch post on 3. You're just like, this can't be in the arena. Like it just can't be. It actually ruins the game. It, so we just need someone, and I say just, like, because you can laugh and say that's not possible, but if we're talking about the most elegant solution, kind of the best solution, or we can sort of like ban legendaries from discoverers, we can change how discover is done. I want a guy, and it could be maybe just pulling good players from the community. Like, I don't know, who's the most devoted player right now? Dreads. You can look. Dreads is a nice guy. You can call him up. I'm sure he'd help out, and he could tell you, for example, with ramming mount and with like the righteous defense and everything. Those are cards that both of us, and also something like watch post. Beforehand, we can just be like, hey, we think that this is pretty problematic. Maybe we should just preemptively remove it, or at the very least, if you don't trust kind of like that opinion, you could just be like, okay, well, we'll give it a couple days.
Yeah.
We'll just give it a couple days
Yeah.
because
Because
within a
the
couple
first
days,
few days, I don't think like people are gonna be like, "Oh, this is terrible," but they'll still play to play the other cards. It's
yeah,
after the first couple days that people are like, "All right, well now I can't play the game because it's terrible."
yeah. I think within 2 days, everyone who played against ramming mount were just like,
Hmm.
this is really dumb, and then who played against watch post. And right now we're playing against. Well, right now it's a fiesta because Goliath is much more of a annoying card than righteous defenses because class card versus the card that everyone can discover from you know
Yeah.
you know how it is. So, but I think they can tell you pretty much immediately that wow, these suck. They shouldn't be in the arena, and whatever fun factor they give the player playing it, it takes away like 10 fun points for the person on the other side. It's just a toxic card.
Yeah,
It's just very, very
it's
toxic.
not even that hard to do for Blizzard. Like here's my proposal because I do think that it is harder than Merps makes it out to be to figure out which card will actually destroy the arena beforehand. We do it with a very good success rate. Like people will say that we're wrong about some things, but it's a very high success rate, and we haven't missed a card that they banned yet. So my proposal would be not to talk to us, but to just be over inclusive about banning. It's okay to ban the top 8 arena cards if 2 of them are going to be problematic. You should try to go for a lower number than 8 if only 2 are going to be problematic. But I would rather see more bans in the arena of non-problematic cards than like what's currently happening, which is that problematic cards stay unbanned for a really freaking long time. Like
Yeah.
Arena
Okay.
has 100, like what, 50 cards? I don't know how many cards they released in an expansion now. It's a crap ton of cards. And in Arena, it's not like you get to pick one and whatever. We're not gonna miss it if you change a 150 card release to a 145 card release. It's not gonna be huge up in arms about this kind of stuff. And the communication of banned cards is way easier than this offering odds adjustment thing that they do, right? You could just put a little eye next to every single class that gets offered, and then you hover over the eye, and they have it in other parts of the UI, so I know they can do this. You hover over it, and it just puts up the banned list of the current cards that would have been in the meta that's currently banned. In fact, they don't even tell you what the rotation is right now, and they need one of those to first tell you what's actually in the rotation in the in-game client. But these are very easily communicable stuff. Of course, the problem I think goes beyond that for Goliath, which is that Engineer is the card that needs to be banned. And
Engineer is the problem, and this is also why when ADWCTA says like, "Yep, like Sneak, like Goliath, is rated a little bit lower than Yeti," and if your automatic thought is,
wait,
"Wait,
I did not say Goliath is rated lower than a Yeti.
no, sorry, Ysera. I don't. I'm
Okay,
thinking of Yeti because
okay. I'm like, I do not want that on the record.
then, yeah, this is exactly what
Yeti
he
S
said,
plus
guys.
tier.
Get the torches out. Get the torches out. Um, and you're thinking, wait, like Goliath is so much more powerful than Ysera. Like that's just been my experience. Well, that's the rating for Goliath, not
Hmm.
deep run into Goliath
Yeah, not
necessarily.
Goliath on
Like,
7.
yeah, not Goliath on 7. Goliath on 7, even when you miss, like, here's the thing. Um, one of the problems with Deep Run is like, man, like anti-tempoing a +1/+1 It really matters with that stat line and everything. But you know what really makes up for it? Goliath one turn earlier makes up for a lot of things. So yes, that's one of the problems. The fact that you can discover it, and the fact that when you discover it and when it is lowered by 1 mana, it is much better than Ysera. Just like how Ysera would be better if it
Hmm.
were cheaper as well. Like that's really the problem. You're discovering like a super Ysera card that by itself is about Ysera level
Yeah.
only.
So I think the solution is to create a larger ban list that they currently have, including Ysera, including Goliath, including I'm gonna say Viper, Scorpid, including Scorpid. Even though I do agree, like I'm one of the people that defends Scorpid staying in the arena. I do not think it's problematic enough to be removed from arena, even though it is neutral. But I will take it out and be okay with that because I want them to be a little more over inclusive about cards that are being banned in arena. And then also, and this is going to require some effort on their part and resources to remove all the ban cards from the discover pool. Also, like yes, you do lose some things, but I think this is something that you can afford to lose. Like you're, it's not even chemo. It's like you're chopping off your limb because you got a mosquito bite. Like that's what's happening here when you don't do something. Like you're just letting it destroy the entirety of the arena when you could, just kind of deal with the mosquito bite.
Yep. So look, we've talked about this Sneed issue or Goliath issue a decent amount, and there are whispers, there are rumors that this week they will change some
Mm-hmm.
things. And I will be very happy once they do, because I have not touched dual class at all since I have seen this. Like the very
It's
first
pointless.
day,
It's totally pointless to play arena
it's
right now.
actually totally
Totally
pointless.
pointless.
If you watch arena streams, some people may have good runs for a period of time. I understand that you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. This is secondhand information for me. Like for example, Redbeard had a pretty good stretch of quite a few games, and then Redbeard just experienced the meta, as in didn't get deep runs, or got deep runs but didn't get Goliath. Opponent got them, or opponent got like an early lead through some other BS, bone married on 7, or they just naturally had some other game-breaking legendary that they either discovered or whatnot. Right? They had Kazakis into Crazy Potion into Parrot that doubled the potion. Stuff that you see normally in this meta now. And then his average sort of tanked. And Redbeard's a good player. If you have seen Dred's stream, the man is actually going insane. I don't know how
I
much
mean,
longer he
is
can
he
do
still
this
playing
for.
arena?
He's still playing it, but no, he's a broken man. He is a shell of a shell of a shell
I
of his past
cannot
self, which
imagine
is
doing that
yeah.
for this long in this
No,
meta.
I mean you shouldn't. And he's doing it though. And yeah, like, look, we know that this is something that Blizzard has identified as. So this is why people anticipate this week there will be a patch. But once
Hmm.
again,
Someone
I
in
think,
chat says that there won't be. I'm gonna believe that person in chat. This feels like a
oh,
larger
okay.
change.
I mean, look, if Cora communicated that, first of all, thank you to Cora for
Yeah, for
kind of
communicating.
putting her, yeah, for communicating that. And if you guys don't know, Cora has done a lot of communicating, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really not her
Cora's been
job.
great. It's not
Yeah,
even
it's
close to her
really not
job.
her job. So props to her for doing that. Also, I I like to think that this was some sort of initiation. But Alkali, who was a content creator, streamer for Hearthstone, is now on the Blizzard team. So first of all, congratulations to Alkali. I think super well deserved. The community management for Blizzard has been up and down, I would say, and has seen its share of criticisms. And I think that, out of some things that they have probably mishandled or botched, hiring Alkali is one of the best things that they could have done. So, good on them. But Alkali was the person who messaged and said, "We're having dual class for the rest of this expansion, and she's just like, "Please, I'm just a messenger. Don't hurt me."
I mean, it really
Because she
doesn't
knows, she
matter though.
understands.
Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter. Like, there's no competitive arena right now. Like, even if you're just looking to improve your average, there's no meta. Like, it's totally like unplayable.
yeah,
So they got to fix that first, and then we can complain about dual class being longer. But I've just written arena off until the next expansion. Um, so
yeah.
I'm
I
playing Mercenaries. I'm enjoying Mercenaries. I want to talk more about Mercenaries, but we'll do that maybe a little next episode.
yeah, I think
They
this.
announce buffs, not specific ones except one, but they announce buffs. So there's kind of this direction of where they're going to go with this game mode.
I know. But yeah. So look, if we're gonna have this meta for another week, and I don't know, maybe changes are coming, maybe changes aren't coming. It's just another unfortunate incident slash lack of response towards the arena community, because this is unplayable,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope that I don't use that word lightly. I don't think I
You
do.
don't.
I
You
typically
definitely. We
I
don't use
typically
unplayable likely
I
because
don't
we
say
literally play
unplayable.
arena, right? Like we
Yeah, yeah,
play it a lot through almost everything. I mean, we're not dreads. We don't play it through literally everything. But we're playing through. I want to say 98% of the weeks that exist since arena's been launched.
yeah.
This has
I'll
fallen
always.
below that 98%. Like someone was I was streaming at some point a couple weeks ago, and someone was like, "Wow, meta's got to be really bad." Like ADWCTA is not playing arena. I'm like, yeah, I can't remember the last time that I said I'm just not going to play arena for a month. I mean, I literally have never done that.
Yep. And it's really unfortunate. Like the only thing I'll do is, at night I will hang out in Dreads' stream. Don't judge me, guys. Okay, look, we don't have to talk about this. But and I'll watch him lose his sanity. And in a way, it's nice to laugh at a guy for not getting Goliath, and then like getting Goliath, and then just getting beast eaten every now and again. And by every now and again, I mean like you play a
Oh my
beast and
god,
it's
the beast
going to
eating
get
thing
eaten.
too.
It's going to
Oh.
get eaten. Uh there's just so many reasons for you to kind of just not even just get frustrated, just like give up on the current meta. There's
Hmm?
so many reasons. And yeah, so like if you're feeling that you can't play arena right now, you will find from lots of people who play it as their j omega lol b, uh that yeah, they would agree with you. Like if you watch Dreads, he will tell you, it's like, yeah, I don't blame you for not playing arena right now. He will say that with a straight face, because he
And
does
this
it
is
so we can all laugh
dreads.
at him.
Like
But yeah.
arena is making a comeback.
Sorry, it's popping
There
off.
it is.
Those are
Popping
his
off.
words.
My bad. My bad. I don't
It's
hang out in
popping
Dreads' stream
off.
that much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is true. Um, so look, uh, take some time if you want. Come back to it eventually. I'm gonna come back to it eventually. And right now, I'm playing D2R just like I always do. It's been pretty fun. And I will come back to Arena at some point, because it's gonna be
And
fun.
they are going to fix this Goliath thing. There's
They
no
will
way
fix it.
they
They will
don't
fix
fix it at some point. It just may not be next week or the week after. But I believe that Blizzard will have it fixed before the next expansion launches. Because I also don't think they're going to
it.
rotate out
Yes.
dead mines. Like that's not going to happen, and they're not going to rotate. Where's engineer? Engineer was right with like Stormwind, right? Like they're not going to rotate out Stormwind either when the next expansion launches. So they're really going to have to actually fix this issue, or just like the easy way is just to ban engineer, right? That'll fix the issue immediately. But they're going to do something about it before the next expansion launch. I believe that. I have very little doubts about that. But who knows how many weeks it's going to take. Next expansion launches, by the way. I just November's gone by so fast. Like we went to Vegas, and then since we've been back, it feels like it's been 2 weeks, and it's been like four, more than four. It's been 5 weeks since we were back from Vegas. It feels like it's been 2 weeks. And so the expansion is going to launch in like 3 weeks, most likely, if it keeps the normal expansion launch timings. So we're not talking about a long time here, but it's not a playable meta until then.
Okay. So look, that's basically it. And I certainly don't want this to be just kind of like a gloom and doom thing. If anything, Ixar's tweet should inspire some hope
Mm-hmm.
in those of you who are still holding out hope. And if the current arena is not something that you enjoy, that's fine. It's not something anyone enjoys, but it's something that everyone has agreed is not enjoyable. Even Blizzard,
Yeah.
like Cora has communicated that they know this deep run engineer slot machine um, is not fun. So they will work on it. A solution will come out at some point, and I understand for the vast majority of you, it's already much later than it needed to be, and I'll agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is. So you can either be super complaining about it and just be unhappy, or you can just do something else in the meantime. Just choose that. Just do something else in the meantime, and then come back later.
Mercenaries. That's what Blizzard wants you to do in the
That was the end goal all along.
Mm-hmm.
To just make the other game. But
Hey,
yeah,
Blizzard got me, alright? They put out Mercenaries. It's not a great game, but it's good enough to hook me, and the fact that it ties into Hearthstone is a pretty big draw for me. Like, I was surprised, but I'm pretty hooked. I've dropped, I haven't said it on here yet, but I've been saying this on stream. So I've dropped $45 and 9K of gold into Mercenaries so far. I have a budget for myself to keep myself from, either super pay to winning it, or to just like use up all my gold on it. So I do have, and it's a if you guys want to take this tip to budget yourself and you have a budgeting problems with these kind of games, because it is kind of a gacha game, it's not a bad gacha game in the sense that you can't really buy your way to victory, and Blizzard doesn't actually want, I said this before when I was reviewing Mercs, Blizzard has done a lot of things to make sure they're not taking your money in too fast, because they're thinking, like, it's not a gacha machine the way other games run it. Like, it's actually quite friendly to free to play and very friendly to pay a little bit to play. But I had it set up as a budget of 1K per legendary and $5 per legendary that they add, so that I don't fall into the trap of, oh, they added new content, let's just dump some more gold into this so I have everything. Like, I'm going to force myself to grind a little bit. But yeah,
why
play
are you
Mercenaries.
using money at all when you have like how much gold do you have?
Oh, I have like a ton of gold, but I want to have a ton of gold. It
But
feels good to have a ton of gold. Like, you make, okay, so some people make money, right, so they can spend money. Other people make money to have the number get bigger in their bank account like a video game. That's how I make money in real life. And that's how I make money in Hearthstone. Like, I've had a ton of gold since as long as I can remember, because I've been an infinite player for like 8 years now. I could take a hit, right? Like, I could take a hit in that. I'm not above using it. But I'm not gonna, like, see it go down to, like, I don't know, 40K or some ridiculously low number. Like, I started with 80K. I'm at like still above 75K now because I'm earning gold also, right, by progressing over the track. But yeah.
Okay, I don't. Okay, all right. You know what? At the end of the day, nothing matters because it is just a game. So I would stop trying to understand this. It just seems oddly like it would have made more sense if you just use money. You know what I mean?
Yes. And then I want my gold to be as high as possible.
Right?
I totally agree with it. I totally agree with it.
You have to agree with this. Like, the fact that you spent 9K and $45, I'm just like, this actually makes no sense.
So one thing I do like is to give money to anything that I am currently using, like whether it's like like if just if I'm like a streamer, right? If you're watching a streamer and then you sub, right, to give them a little bit of whatever. And so like I do that with Blizzard already, but for like the longest time, like initially I bought the pre-orders every single expansion, and then I was like, this is totally useless as an arena player, and it actually costs a crap ton of money, and I don't, so I stopped for a few years, and now they had a battle pass, and so I'm paying for the battle pass in real money because you can't use gold for that battle pass. But now I'm playing Mercs also, so I'm adding a little bit on top of it. It's not that much.
Okay. But you do understand this, like, I would have asked no questions if you had just spent money. I would have just been like, fine, whatever. He's eccentric in a consistent way. But the fact that you split it I'm just like, I don't understand. You're not even trying to maximize your gold
No, no,
here.
no. I'm
You
not trying
just
to max anything. I'm just trying to do what makes me feel best, right? Because that's the whole point of playing these games. Like, it's especially like PVE mercs and like just leveling up all your comps and whatever. It's a grind. Like, you do it only if you enjoy it and you want to do a brainless activity for a while, right? Like, and part of what makes me enjoy something more is that I'm actively supporting the whole endeavor. And yes, I'm sure Blizzard keeps track of how much gold I'm spending on and goes like, ah, that's gold that could have been used somewhere else and whatever. But I'm also sure they appreciate my money more than me using up my gold.
okay. All right. Fair enough. At the end of the day, it's all pixels. Nothing really makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All
Mm-hmm.
right. So look, uh, did you want to talk about anything else? We've been going at this.
No. We've been going on for a while, and that's because Ixar dropped this on us like 2 hours before, and it was such a big arena news, and arena usually doesn't have big news, period. So we really wanted to talk about it. We'll be back next week. Maybe there'll be an update on the arena. Maybe there won't. Maybe we'll talk a little battlegrounds. Maybe we'll dig a little deeper into some game design on how Mercs will look in the future with the balance patches. I don't know. We'll figure something out for next week. But if you're also listening to this and you're wondering what's happening to the arena coop, we're not gonna like we skipped the last arena coop because we thought it was just gonna be 1 week of dual classes, but we're not going back to the arena coop until it's playable. Which is not this week. It's probably not next week. Like,
I don't think because okay, we want to look at the goal of the coop, right?
mm-hmm.
And it's not just sort of like, oh, like they don't want to reduce their average. Our average is kind of basically tainted already with the snipers and
Yeah,
also it's just been a long time. So like it's not just about that. It's what is there to learn about this meta?
yeah. There's nothing.
There's nothing.
There's
Like
nothing.
there's nothing to learn about this meta. And whatever lesson there is, I can tell you right now, draft the deep run engineers, get Goliath,
Win game.
just try to win. I don't know. There's some like really BS stuff that happens, and it helps you for this meta to memorize that BS stuff, and then it won't help you for the rest of the year
Yeah,
because it's like very specific weird things, like quote paladins or paladin warlocks, or let's say like shaman demon hunters can do very specific things in which if you memorize it right now it is helpful, and if you track their hand and you're like, oh, I think this shaman demon hunter has this, and that's great, you built up the skill. It's just not applicable for other metas, especially not in this meta, like in which a lot of it comes down to you play your deep run, they play their deep run. It happens so often. One of you gets Goliath, it means that person wins.
mm-hmm. Yep. That's the arena right now. So yeah, so if you're wondering what's happened to the arena coop, we'll pick up the arena coop again when things are meaningful, which honestly is probably going to be after the release of the next. So it's not like the arena coop is gone forever or anything like that, but it will be gone for a while. It's not coming back next week either.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the arena coop, see you next expansion. But for the Lightforge, where obviously a bad meta doesn't affect what we can talk about on the Lightforge. So we'll see you next week for the Lightforge. Until then, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. See you guys.